Sam had always been used to the quiet life of a lonely rancher. His mornings were predictable. Feed the chickens, check the fences, and sip his coffee while watching the sun rise over endless fields. But that morning, something unusual disturbed his routine. A shadow fell across the doorway, massive, towering, and undeniably human. Blinking against the sudden light, Sam stumbled back. Before him stood a giant bride, dressed in flowing white, looking both flustered and frustrated. "Make it stop. It inches down there," she cried, her voice echoing across the yard. Sam's eyes widened as he tried to make sense of her words. He soon realized that her enormous hat, decorated with ribbons and flowers, had slipped down over her eyes, nearly smothering her. She struggled to lift it, knocking over a wheelbarrow in the process. Sam swallowed his surprise and stepped forward cautiously. Hi, do you need some help?" he asked, scratching his head. The giant bride looked at him with wide, pleading eyes. Carefully, Sam guided her to the biggest chair he could find, a reinforced one he had once used to stack hay bales. Slowly and patiently, he helped lift the oversized hat and adjust it properly, making sure it wouldn't slide down again. Alara, the giant bride, let out a relieved sigh and gave a small, embarrassed smile. "Thank you," she said softly. "It's just, everything seems so small down here, and nothing ever fits." Sam chuckled. "Well, you're definitely the tallest guest I've ever had, that's for sure." Despite the odd situation, a strange warmth filled the air. Something about helping her, the careful attention, the shared laughter, made the lonely rancher feel less alone than he had in years. And as the sun peeked through the clouds, Sam realized this unexpected visitor might just bring a little excitement, and maybe even friendship, into his quiet, predictable life. The next day, Sam tried to show Alara around the ranch, hoping she could help with chores. At first, it seemed like a simple idea, but he quickly realized that having a giant bride as a helper came with complications. When Alara stepped into the carrot patch, her enormous feet sank into the soil, crushing dozens of carrots beneath her. "Oops, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, hopping back in embarrassment. Sam sighed, though he couldn't help but smile at her sincere concern. Trying to stay positive, he suggested she help with the barrels of feed. Alara approached carefully, but her sheer size caused a stack of barrels to topple over with a loud crash. Chickens scattered in every direction, squawking in alarm. Sam ran from one disaster to another, dodging rolling barrels and flapping wings. Maybe we should start smaller," he muttered under his breath. Alara, determined to be helpful, looked around. "What can I do right? I don't want to ruin everything," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. Sam paused, then had an idea. He gathered hay bales and built a makeshift ramp leading from the barn to the pond, the place where she had tripped the day before. "Try this," he said gently. "It's safe and won't break anything." With careful steps, Alara walked up the ramp and reached the pond without incident. She laughed with relief, a bright, ringing sound that filled the open air. "I didn't think it would work. You really are clever," she admitted, smiling at Sam. Sam shrugged, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. "Just trying to make sure my giant guest doesn't accidentally destroy the ranch," he said. For the first time, the giant bride felt like she belonged somewhere, and Sam realized that perhaps he didn't need to be lonely anymore. With patience, humor, and a bit of creativity, they were learning to handle life together, giant-sized problems and all. That evening, dark clouds rolled in over the ranch, and a sudden storm began to sweep across the fields. Rain pelted the rooftops, and the wind howled, rattling the barn doors. Alara, the giant bride, was trying to hold her enormous hat in place when a strong gust snatched it right off her head and sent it tumbling into the mud. She let out a wail that echoed through the valley. "It's ruined," she cried, her hands flying to her face. Sam rushed over, slipping slightly on the wet ground, trying to hide a grin. "Don't worry, I can fix it," he said, grabbing a bucket and some ropes. He fashioned a makeshift hat from hay, tying it carefully so it would stay put. When he held it up for her, Alara blinked in surprise. "It looks ridiculous," she admitted, "but somehow it works." She placed it on her head and it balanced surprisingly well. The storm didn't let up, but something magical happened. The two of them began to laugh, first nervously, then freely, as the rain soaked through their clothes and ran down their faces. Sam twirled around, keeping a careful distance from her enormous feet, and Alara stomped lightly in rhythm, splashing in puddles. The muddy water didn't bother them, they were too busy enjoying the moment. For the first time, Alara felt less like a giant burden and more like someone who could share joy, even in the middle of chaos. Sam realized that life didn't always need to be orderly or calm. Sometimes laughter and creativity were the best ways to solve problems. By the time the storm passed, the ranch was a mess, the hat was mud-streaked, and both of them were drenched, but they didn't care. They had discovered a new rhythm together, a partnership where patience, humor, and a little ingenuity could turn even the worst situations into moments worth remembering. Word spread quickly through the nearby town that a giant bride had taken up residence at Sam's ranch. Curious villagers began to arrive, peering over fences and whispering excitedly. Some brought gifts of flowers and fruits, while others just gawked, wide-eyed at her towering presence. Alara, who was already self-conscious about her size, felt her cheeks flush. "Oh no! Everyone is looking at me!" she exclaimed, trying to shrink behind a barn post. Sam stepped forward calmly, a reassuring hand on her arm. "Don't worry," he said. "We can make this work. We'll keep it safe and fun for everyone." He quickly set to work, gathering extra hay bales and planks to build a giant-sized seating area and even a makeshift swing so Alara could relax without worrying about breaking anything. Villagers watched in amazement as the ranch transformed into a playful, welcoming space tailored just for her. Slowly, Alara's anxiety melted away. She realized that Sam wasn't just helping her navigate her enormous life, he was showing her how to enjoy it. Children laughed as she gently swung on the swing, and adults marveled at her height and grace. She even started to chat with the villagers, realizing that she could participate in their world without feeling clumsy or out of place. By the end of the day, the ranch had turned into a lively, magical scene. Laughter echoed across the fields, and even Sam couldn't stop smiling. He watched Alara interact with the villagers, amazed at how quickly she had adapted and how joyful she seemed. The lonely rancher realized that sometimes, the most unexpected guests could bring life and happiness into even the quietest places. And for Alara, the giant bride, she discovered that with a little creativity and a lot of patience, she could finally feel at home, even in a world that often seemed too small for her. As the day came to a close, the sky was painted with hues of orange, pink, and gold. Sam and Alara sat together on the hill, overlooking the ranch, the gentle breeze ruffling her enormous veil. For the first time since arriving, Alara carefully removed the troublesome hat that had caused so much chaos. "You know," she said softly, looking out over the fields, "I never thought someone could make these little annoyances stop from being terrifying." Sam chuckled, shaking his head. "Sometimes it just takes the right person to help," he replied. He watched as she carefully set the hat aside, revealing her bright eyes and radiant smile. There was a quiet understanding between them now, a bond formed through laughter, patience, and shared adventures. The ranch, once a quiet and lonely place, now felt alive and warm. Alara stretched her long legs and carefully stood, her towering figure silhouetted against the sunset. She looked down at Sam and smiled. "I never imagined that being me could feel this normal," she admitted. Sam grinned. "Well, life might be a little more complicated with a giant bride around, but it's definitely more interesting." They both laughed, a sound that carried across the rolling fields. The ranch no longer felt empty. It was filled with the promise of new experiences, unexpected friendships, and maybe even a little fun chaos. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam realized he wasn't lonely anymore. And Alara felt, for the first time, that she had a place where she truly belonged, a home where her size, her quirks, and even her mischievous hat could all fit just right. The two of them sat in comfortable silence, watching the first stars appear in the sky, ready for whatever adventures tomorrow might bring. Together, they had learned that with patience, creativity, and friendship, even the most awkward challenges could become cherished memories.